this one. He's concentrating on classics. Of course, you'll be able to keep in touch with his progress and all the rest of those right here on Eurosport. But Quintana, nonetheless, great test for him. It's been a late start to this season, so he says he's targeting the win, and when he says that, you have to listen, even though you have to bend down quite a long way to hear what he's saying. Joaquim Rodriguez, the diminutive Spaniard, is also in the house. The champion of this race, 2014. Zakarin, though, is possibly the man, the secret weapon that they're going to be using. Satovic today and Rain Taramay for the lumpy stuff. Here's Team Sky and Chris Froome. He's out of his early training and, well, really engaging in competition for the first time, I guess you might say. And what a team to back up with. Geraint Thomas, who's in his pomp at the moment. Ben Swift might have some options today as well. Alex Quickstep, Dan Martin is in the house. And nice to see that Julian Alaphilippe is back after mononucleosis last year, after some great results in the classics. So on some of the rolling days, he'll be an interesting one. Fabio Ru is also here. It's a short team for Astana, however. Vincenzo Nibali bowing out of this race. Late call by him. Early call, Alberto Contador. Many saying that this is in his final season. He wants to boss everything he takes part in. And he's taking part here. He's got a great team around him, absolutely built for this race, which has plenty of climbs and no time trialing, don't forget, to spoil the hopes of some. Esteban Chavez is here, but Impey and Gerrans will be our focus today. They are amongst the few that can challenge Buani at the line, provided Buani hasn't got himself a dose of the sulks, of course. This is Lotto Soudal right now. Tosh van der Sande, their man for the sprints. How much they'll perform when it comes to the lumpy stuff is anyone's guess. Tom Dumoulin, cock-a-hoop after the Vuelta last time by. A bit more support in the mountains now for this one. Warren Barguil should help out, but Nicolas Arndt is their quick man, and again, one of those who's likely to challenge Buani today, but possibly only for minor places. Pozzovivo and Bardet for AG2R La Mondiale, and plenty of others to consider as well along the way. Lampre Merida, David Kimolai can go very quickly, but will he be quick enough today? Same question, I guess you might ask, of Trek Factory Racing. And Kyle Reinen, the American, he's had some sparkling results and has kind of punched above his weight, I think you might say. Had a good Strada Bianchi as well, did Reinen, so he might be your choice. Lotto Jumbo not going to have anyone for the sprints today. They're very much focusing on the overall. Rob Jessing, Wilco Kelderman and Primoz Roglic. Yes, that's right, the Slovenian. Watch out for him. He can go reasonably well. Interesting, Francis de Jure. They've sort of sent a raiding party here to Spain. They got Lorenzo Manzin, who's quick, but Kevin Retzer is often quicker. I often see Kevin Retzer leading out other teammates and then wondering why he hadn't just gone for it himself. So it'll be either one of they today. As far as Cannondale are concerned, really thinking about the long picture and the overall with Rigoberto Urán, David Formolo, Michael Woods as well. Now, he's a former runner, so he swapped his soft shoes for his clip shoes. Good in the Tour Down Under, and he could be a surprise, the young Canadian, so watch out for him. Van Genekten, a sprinter for I Am Cycling. All right, Maddie Frank, Elmiger, you know, it's sort of a rolling team, let's put it that way. I'm not expecting too much glory from I Am Cycling. Dimension Data, it's got Igor Anton and Mohawi Kudus that they're thinking about for the overall. And Kaya Roral, one of our pro-continental teams, of which we have 6 here. Carlos Barbero, I think their best hope, going for it today. Barbero had a crash on the Etoile Bessèges, so we'll see whether he's managed to pick himself up off the deck. Cofidis are here, and suddenly our roll-through of the teams has actually halted at long last. I think they were just checking that Nacer Bouhanni has actually taken the start. He has. He's in a happy place, apparently, so woe betide everybody else. Borat Bozic and Jeffrey Soup with his magnificent beard. The luxury face of Jeffrey Soup will be to the fore, and we'll see whether Nacer Bouhanni delivers. It would be strange if he didn't, quite frankly, because he's climbing well. Rebel in Disguise, leading out Sprandi Polkovici. Ron Pot, take your pick. Hub Doin, according to Magnus Baxter, who we'll be speaking to in a moment, is their chosen man for the sprints. We've got Verva as well. Again, anybody's guess, I guess, for the mostly Polish teams. And Wanty Group Gobert, watch out for Gaetian Byler today, but Gasparotto is their chosen man. But if Byler gets the free pass, he might just go for it. So there we are. So as Wanty spins out, it gives us a chance to spin over to the live and finally bring in Magnus Backstedt, who's been sitting here extraordinarily patiently while we've been going through everything. So 3 riders up the road. We've got Luis Mas of Caja Rural. We've got Cameron Meyer from Dimension Data. We've got Boris Dron of Wanty Group Gobert. And I think you can see, Magnus, why we're not hooking up with them just yet, because we have some technical problems with the relay. So as Vera and Paolo wait for the arrival here, I'd like to welcome you, Magnus. Just say hi.
Hi.
Yeah, you know Magnus is here.
Yeah.
Finally, we've given up the ghost. We're going to take... Welcome back, everybody. We've got some technical issues today. The relay from our host broadcasters is not up and running, so the pictures they have got are from a little bit earlier on. The gap is down to under 3 minutes now, having maxed out to 5:40. These guys went off reasonably early on. It's Luis Mas from Caja Rural in the green, as you can see, who's desperately holding on to his cold weather gear. This is the finish line, so at least we'll have these pictures for you when they finally come into town. Cameron Meyer has made it up the road as well for Dimension Data, and Boris Dron from Wanty Group Gobert. Magnus, it's always a pain when you can't see the action, but we've got 3 decent riders up the road at the moment, and they've had some decent results throughout last season and before.
Yeah, and probably the best rider out of all of those guys is Cameron Meyer, who's well, he's becoming one of the sort of escape artists as such, and getting himself out into to long breakaways, and has performed really well from those. Obviously going across to Dimension Data now, and I think he's got himself a bit of new motivation, new team, new equipment underneath him, and with that, I'm looking forward to see what he can do this year.
Yeah, me too. Runner-up in the road race, Road Nationals, by the way, to Luke Durbridge, Turbo Durbo. 28 years of age, Meyer. He's in a happy place. Had a good run in the Sun Tour, of course. Won that last year as well. We've also got Luis Mas. You may remember him in Istanbul, in the finish between the 2 mosques in that square. The little kick-up. His team mobbed the corners, and he beat Cav, which is a big scalp. Whether Luis Mas will be able to do so again today, I'm not sure, but there is our Luis of Caja Rural, and they're joined by the only unmentioned rider so far. There he is at the back, which is Wanty Group Gobert's Boris Dron, 28 years of age. He led the King of the Mountains competition in the Tour of Luxembourg back in 14. And, you know, he's a solid worker within a team that often like to punch above its weight. But clearly still got some issues, Magnus, so we're going to shoot the breeze, not only with those at home. By the way, if you'd like to have a brief chat with us, the way it's going, there's going to be plenty of time for this. It's at Carlton Kirby, or at Maggie_PR, as in Paris-Roubaix, as opposed to anything else. So yeah, if you'd like to have a chat with us, then that would be great. I see that Tim Barthorpe is happy. He's got his skillet out. I don't know what he's frying up for us. He'll tell us later. So Caja, and in a looping course today, and indeed 5 climbs to be dealt with, of which we still have 2 remaining, and we are hearing, finally, we've got some pictures for you. Oh, that's nice. There we are. In fact, we've got 3 climbs. We're just heading to the peak of this one. It's the major climb of the day, the Col Formic. Thank heaven. You join us on the 96 Tour of Catalunya. We've got 3 riders in the breakaway. Cameron Meyer, Luis Mas, Boris Dron, Dimension Data, Caja Rural, and Wanty Group Gobert. It's the Wanty man who's at the front at the moment. What do they want? A Category 1 climb, that's what. They've already taken the intermediate sprint, the first of the 2 that grace every single day, sharing 3, 2 and 1 bonus seconds. Can they, will they, go all the way? Unlikely. 1 minute and 40 is the gap. It was 5:40 not that long ago. Breakaways have made it in the past. Albacini did it like that on this stage in 2012. But honestly, hiding to nothing, especially with the quality of the chasers that we've got here. Movistar working for Quintana, Sky working for Froome, Tinkoff working for Contador. As soon as you start saying those names, and then you add in Richie Porte, Joaquim Rodriguez, Fabio Ru, you know this is a quality race, Magnus Backstedt.
Well, it's probably one of the best Volta Catalunya start fields that I've seen in my career, and I'm really looking forward to see what the guys have done over the winter and how well they're coming prepared into this race. So I guess it's going to be a bit of a test for all of these big names to see how they compare against each other before they sort of head back into another block of training before they start racing getting ready for Giro d'Italia and Tour de France ultimately.
Well, we've had a bit of a hiatus for some of the big stars. Nairo Quintana has been basically anonymous. He's been absent. Likewise, Chris Froome. They've kind of kept themselves very much to themselves, but neither of them get knocked back by a lack of competition, it seems. Good training blocks. They come out of the blocks, don't they, quite literally, when they're in this sort of they're offered this kind of competition. They usually start well, provided they don't get dogged by sickness, which happened to Froome, of course.
Well, it has happened, and there's always a risk at the start of the year with the weather and racing in the cold all the time. But I think they are certainly going to be really up for the competition, and you know, it's always good to have a bit of a test at an early stage in your season to start really preparing yourself for the bigger races. But for someone like Froome, you know, he's so confident in what he does, how his training works, and so on. So I don't think he's really going to read too much into it if he's not performing at his very, very best. And I believe that he's likely to just take it on the chin and go back and train some more. So although it's interesting to see all of these guys here, I don't think we can draw too many conclusions as to what's going to happen when we come to July.
Well, there we are. The thoughts of Magnus Backstedt, of course, winner of the Paris-Roubaix. We'll be having that great monument, of course, here on Eurosport live after Flanders, indeed. Already had Milan-San Remo. Glorious. So, we've got Alberto Contador coming up for you in a brief while. He had an early chat to us. Just seeing Cannondale showing their nose. And it's going to be an important one for me and everybody else because it's a very high level. Yeah, there's Froome, Quintana, Aru. It's impressive, the draw. Yeah, it is. Not only the four you mentioned. All teams have brought some pretty good mountain riders. So it's going to be a spectacular one. So what about this course? No time trial, so a pretty good one, but and lots of mountains. Yeah, you never know entirely how to plan out the entire course. You have to stay flexible. Some of the riders are going to be faster than you on some stages along the way. You've got to expect that at this high level. And so maybe I will have some troubles in the mountains, but all seems good. Bertie seems happy, unlike poor old Louis Mas, who's trying to chase on. And as you can see, if you're good at descending, then why not show what you can do? Just pushing out from the pack. I'm just trying to see who it is. I suspect it may well be one of our Movistar friends. Go on.
It was Mas that was going ahead of these riders, it looked like.
There we are. So just about to be absorbed. Louis Mas from Cairo Round just being brought back in. So we just got a pair up the road at the moment. That looks like a precipitous drop should anyone get it wrong. So let's hope they don't.
Yeah, that's obviously one of the things on your mind when you descend, or certainly on some riders. It's the danger of descending on a cliffside like this, and it does look like the road is slightly damp as well, which means that you're not quite sure of the grip level and how much you can actually bank the bike over. So it tends to be a bit sketchy.
Just checking in on the speedo right now, and honestly, if they just settle down and maybe switch on the stability element of the camera, about 75 k's an hour by the looks of things, to my reading. 53 to go. This is a long descent, Maggie. We've got a little kick up for the next categorized climb. It's only climbing of 2.7 kilometers when they get there, and maxing out though at 9%. So it'll be a late sapper after, what, 135 kilometers by the time they reach the top in the legs already, with, what, 40 to go once they get to the top.
Yeah, the first stage of Catalunya is never really a big climber stage. It's still a significant amount of climbing to be done, but at the same time, if we compare to what we have to come, this is quite quite an easy stage, and in the past it has come down to a sprint of some 50, 60 riders at least, and it all depends on how hard they actually do go up these, as you say, little ramps. It's a second category climb still, and we still have another third category climb to come with only about 15 kilometers left to the finish. So yeah, there's enough racing left to be done here today.
Well, that's it's a little more being offered us from the helicopter as to just a shot of a glass of milk, but the clouds are most definitely there, and they're hampering some of the vistas that you can experience in this part of the world. It is gorgeous round here, it's just that you're not seeing the very best of it just for the time being. Oh dear, now this doesn't look great. What's beckoning us here? It's oh, thankfully there we are. They're just marshalling us, having held up the traffic. Thank goodness for that. Just distracted momentarily, unlike these guys, thank goodness. So down they come, and you can clearly see, Magnus, who's good at this and who's not.
Yeah, definitely. And the Movistar riders in the front of the peloton have now caught up with the lead riders. So Movistar clearly quite happy to push on, although it is quite damp on the roads here. And the first stage of any race that you do, and if you get a wet surface, and certainly up in the mountains, you're never quite sure how much grip you got, because it changes from country to country, from you know, region to region, how much sort of diesel and other stuff that you have on the road, of what kind of a film there is on the road, and obviously that, you know, gives you a different type of grip level. So it's quite easy to push it just that fraction too hard and have a front wheel slide out from you. So it looks like the Movistar riders, obviously they're quite happy up in this region, and understand how much they can press on.
Voice of Magnus Backstead, voice of experience, and as you look under the trees as well, some of the areas which have held the moisture, and it looks at quite a glissé surface, as the French would say. It is very smooth rolling resistance, and Quintana looks reasonably happy as they get kicked up as the motorcycle goes through a puddle and just sprays them with a little bit of his own rooster tail. They're going easier than the motorcycle at the moment, and he's holding them up.
He is holding them up.
You often find that, don't you, that the bigger machine has troubles through the curves?
Yeah, very often. The motorbikes do struggle to keep away from the bike riders when they really press on, and certainly on the tighter types of corners on a descent, they really find it very difficult to stay away from the bike riders. Add the somewhat slippery conditions here, and it's not easy to hold that motorbike upright either.
No, and thankfully we are indeed getting some decent shots relayed now. As you see the clouds just breaking up, it looks like almost a volcanic scene, does it not? 50 kilometers to go then in this, the 96 Tour of Catalunya. No great names for the time being on your screen, but you'll be seeing plenty of them as we have plenty of mountaintop finishes. It's probably worth going through the course, to be honest. The explosive day is going to be day 3. We've still got climbing tomorrow, and we had a category 1 which we're coming off right now today. So racing right from the off, no prologue, no time trials of any kind. Just proper rolling terrain, and indeed some real tests. The big one is stage 4 as we go to Port Ain, which many people know. That's the only day where we have especial climbs. I'll wipe the screen. We will be finishing on one of those special categorized climbs. It settles down to vals and gives the rollers a chance again. Likewise on stage 6, but Barcelona has 3 category 3 climbs at the end on a circuit of which you have to take 8 times in the latter part of the course. So it really is a very good test bed, this, to see how your form is coming out of the winter, and those who haven't actually measured themselves in competition just yet will gain a lot from this.
Yeah, they certainly will do. I've come back into competition on a number of times after having had an very early season injury, and used Catalunya to get back into shape again. And it's a tough race, but it's still rideable, even if you're not in super condition. Although it does help when you've got the nice light legs to go uphill. But there's many different types of riders here today, just in this race. Just to some looking for condition, some effectively looking to win the race, and others are just here to you know, just keep on putting the miles in for a much later objective.
Well, they'll be able to deconstruct it today a little bit later on. For now, it's Movistar that are just leading down the mountain in a long, sinuous line. It looks like everyone's reasonably happy for it to stay together today and leave the punch-ups until we get to the big... Welcome back. We've just taken a little kicker as we head to the penultimate climb of the day, the Alto de Montseny. Just a climb of 2.7 kilometres, but it does max at 9%, so its average is 6.8. But some nasty little inclines on some of the switchbacks, and it's a reasonably technical descent. In fact, as it will be off the categorised 3 final climb, the Alto de Colsicrao. That comes with 18 kilometres to go. The climb that they're just about to engage with right now peaks out at 39 k's from home. So a technical descent at the very last with a flat 8 k's to home, but it does, flattish I should say, it does roll, and it could get a little bit spiteful late on. Here's Warren Barguil.
Ouais, ça va, ça fait bizarre d'être là, c'est...
Yeah, I'm okay.
On va dire que j'ai une boule au ventre, mais c'est vrai que
It's a little bit strange, to be honest, to be here. It's not like I'm afraid, but it's been a long time waiting for this. I haven't been back on the bike that long. And
on verra ce que ça donne, mais je suis vraiment content d'être au départ.
I don't know how or what to feel emotionally to be here amongst all these big names. I think he's referring to.
C'est surtout découvrir la semaine.
So what will be your role during this week?
Et prendre du plaisir au maximum.
He says he doesn't have a precise role.
Just
to do it for pleasure and to find my own sensations on a bike. And then I'll see for the rest of the season. In order to be sure where I am physically at the moment. Do I need more training, or is it okay like this? My legs will tell me the truth, basically. Would it be fair to say that the terrible accident that you sustained is now behind you? No, it was very difficult, and I think I will live with that forever. It's difficult to turn the page. I was very shocked. Now I just need to live with that and get on with it. But I'll live my life as at 200%, he says. And I won't be turning that page fully. It was too dangerous for me to do that. Magnus, when you have a big one, as Warren Barguil had, just how difficult is it to move on from something like that mentally, I guess?
Well, I've been very fortunate not to have been part of anything of that sort of seriousness in my career. And I think it will be very difficult to put that behind you and to move on from it. Ultimately, if you're gonna be a bike rider and do this for a living, part of what you do is, you know, you're out on the roads, open roads and you're sharing that with cars, and ultimately there's only so much you can protect yourself and you know, look out for things that could potentially happen. At the end of the day, it's at this point it was the driver's fault
worth telling people that it was a it was a tourist that was on the wrong side of the road and basically crashed into, and could well have ended even more seriously than it did. Careered into the giant Alpecin team that was training. John Degenkolb was another one who was very badly affected.
Yeah, he was. He almost lost a finger, as far as I understand on the reports, and obviously that is not a good one. But it could have gone so much worse than what it actually did, and I think we should just count us lucky that we still have all of those riders from that team with us, and it's nice to see that they're coming back. So let's see what they can do.
The rain is coming down, and that's an added element to today. We've already seen the damp surface. They've made a transition onto much narrower roads for this climb, and I must admit I was wondering how they managed to categorise some of their climbs, because the category 1 earlier on looked quite benign, and this category 2 looks a lot tougher, quite frankly. But they are the vagaries of climb categorisation, particularly in Spain, it seems.
Well, in Spain they seem to have different categories to everywhere else in the world. But
I think they put them all in the bag and then just pull them out.
Yeah,
I've seen category 3s that would have been a 1 elsewhere.
Yeah, and I've been in cross-category, you know, 3s and 4s that have been less hard than some of the, what should we call them, bonus climbs that you get elsewhere on the road. You know, you're sort of climbing, and all of a sudden you descend and there's a little bump in the road, and that's got a category on it. So yeah, Spanish guys seem to get it very interesting.
Yeah, keep us lively. Couple of complaints. One coming in from Simon Wilkinson, who's a photographer himself. He says, stop blaming the photographers, move on. Show some respect. Well, when there's danger, it's not always the fault of the photographers. It's actually, as I was indicating, the race directors who called them through. There was just no space where they moved through a little bit earlier on, just as we were about to crest a categorized climb, the biggest climb of today. And to be honest, Simon, you know, you see it, you see danger. It's my job to call it. So Simon apparently is a photographer himself. So. Best of luck to you. And honestly, without the photographers or indeed the TV crews, we wouldn't have a sport. It's as simple as that. So we're grateful to your life, Simon, but honestly, that was a dodgy moment, and I can only put it down to direction saying it was clear to go at the wrong time, because these bikes don't move, Magnus, unless they are given clearance.
No, they certainly don't. They take the directions from the race organisers and the commissaires, and they live with that. And yeah, sometimes there are some very questionable calls.
Yeah, so we're not too hard on our photo friends. Here we are. The road has a high crown to it. As you can see, it's broken at the side. There's a lot of leaf debris as well, indeed some stones that have been washed onto the surface. Danger if you do get too close to the edge of puncturing at a moment like this. And you can see how rough the road surface is. Despite the fact it's nice and warm in the summertime, it does get very, very cold on occasion, particularly up in the hills. And today we're maxing out temperature-wise only at 15 Celsius. And you can see there's a lot of wet weather gear and warm weather gear that's still just being dispatched with right now, even though we're at, what, 4:15 in the afternoon. Local time. Motorcycles just being told to give them a bit more leeway, but we are essentially all together, although this looks like a select group of about 50 riders, with most of the big names within it.
Yeah, I would suspect that all the big names are actually in this bunch, and by the looks of it, quite a few other riders as well. I think you're not far off having the whole bunch there.
In fact, you're absolutely right. Most have managed to come together.
Yeah, I think the interesting bit is going to be the descent off of this climb as well, though. It being quite narrow now and still very, very wet indeed. Technical descent is going to be dangerous. I
think we may get an attack here, Magnus. 39 to go at the peak. There's a lot of descending and not a great deal of climbing. Somebody who's got who's feeling that they can stretch their legs may well have a go. It could also be off the last climb with 18 to go, when we've got that very technical descent. A good descender could take advantage today.
Yeah, they could do. Although there is a large risk today to making that attack down the descent. You know, in dry conditions, you can always kind of press on and still go very fast and be with some safety. When you get a damp road surface, then you never quite know what you're going to hit coming around a corner. Even the smallest of leaves can mean that you're losing the grip with your front tire, and the consequences tend to be slightly different.
We're going to be hearing from Igor Anton of Dimension Data. He's their chosen son here. They didn't quite knit it all together, Dimension Data, when it came to the Milan-San Remo. Edvald Bosenhagen tried a late roll of the dice, as I'm sure you saw, and why not Janse van Rensburg, who was supposed to be the chosen son that day, didn't quite happen. But here we are. We said, I said it, somebody might be prepared to go long, and so it is proving.
Yeah, definitely. Excuse me. Yeah, one of the Lotto riders going off the front here, but I don't think the Movistar are panicking too much right at this point. There's still some way to go in this race. It's like you said, a long descent and then another small climb, and the final part of this race in towards the finish is on a very large road indeed, and it's one of those. It looks completely pan flat on the profile. It's far from it, and very difficult to stay away if you are in a small group. Although it did happen last year, if I'm not mistaken, completely.
Well, it's Verwijk who's decided to shake things up just a little bit. Tosh van der Sande will be their chosen man today, but I thought that somebody may well decide to go long, and Verwijk is thinking, well, if it's going to be somebody, why on earth shouldn't it be me? And well, he's absolutely right. If you don't give riders enough respect on a day such as this, you can get bitten. Albacini it was that went solo from a very early break back in 2012. He made it stick. 2013, that was Meersman from a quality group of riders. I think Wiggins was in that group, as well as Dan Martin. That was in 2013. So before Dan really sort of shone in our collective consciousness, although he was having some spectacular results, as I'm sure you know. A great classics man, Dan, is here as well. We remind you. It was a bunch sprint in 2014, and it was Petersky from a breakaway last year. So breakaways can go long or short, but we've had just about everything. With the bunch sprint was taken by Mezgets, by the way, in 2014. So here we are. He's about to find his descending legs, and I think that tick is just slightly out, by the way, by about 1,500 meters as we stand. And so he is away. What sort of gap will he get when Movistar decide to turn it on? And we know how slickly they can descend, particularly on a surface where you actually know it, and that counts for an awful lot. Local knowledge, especially on a smooth rolling surface like this. Just how slippery is it? Well, it depends on a whole number of factors. When was the last time it rained? What's the rolling resistance on the circuit? Just how grippy it is, essentially. And look at Movistar. They're having fun here, and Sky are just hanging on to their coattails at the moment. And wise to do that, I think.
Yeah, I think it is wise to hold on to that, but also give the Movistar riders a bit of leeway. You know, you don't want to sit right on the wheel if someone does slide out, and there's no need to you know, be pushing down this descent too hard anyway.
Verwijk is taking it very carefully. He's keeping that bike as upright as he possibly can through the curves, and he's now just driving into one of the flatter sections. When you don't know the road, and to be honest, on a road such as this, why would you, even with the best deconstruction of the day by hopefully one of your team members, you can't actually know every single road, even on a 7-stage race, can you?
No, far from it. It is very difficult, although this is not too far out from Calais, so they could have gone out here yesterday and had a bit of a ride and look at the final 2 descents to fully understand what you know, what they're about to take on board. And I would suggest that a couple of teams have actually done that.
Well, it's amazing what a little bit of knowledge can do for you. And as our cameraman just decides that he's going to squeeze the lens, possibly would be a great idea to get in front of the rider, but as we've seen, you may think, but as we've seen, it's difficult to stay away from cyclists who generally tend to get around the corners a little bit better than the motorbikes at a moment such as this. We've got Igor Anton, I believe in Spanish, so I'll try and dust this one off for you.
Volta a Catalunya, una carrera muy dura. ¿Cómo llegas aquí?
It's a very difficult course, this one. How are you going to take it? Well, I'm full of confidence. I've been working well. The level here, though, is extremely high. It's a perfect race, I guess, to find out exactly what sort of level you are. So what are your hopes? Get a stage or overall standing? Well, just to continue the way that I've been building. I was good in Andalusia, so I just want to carry on the same way. I don't really want any big surprises from myself. Just want to win finally looks a bit complicated because there's so many good people here, he says. I think that's the point, isn't it, Magnus? You want to find out where you are, and if glory offers itself stage by stage, then you'll take that. But to be honest, when you're faced with defending champion Richie Porte, who wants to show what he can do in BMC, Chris Froome's back, Geraint Thomas we know about, Quintana, Martin, Contador, Aru, in no particular order. This is absolutely racked full of some great riders. It's hard to... these guys must wake up and think, what on earth have I got to do today?
Yeah, that will definitely be the case with this particular race, and I think you only counted about half of the actual GC contenders that are here. You know, we've still got Ryder Heyerdahl, Tom Dumoulin, Rigoberto Urán, Pozzo Vivo, Robert Gesink, David Rebellin, Fabio Aru. It's just, yeah, you might as well have been the Tour de France in terms of start field.
Quite frankly, it's almost easier to count who's missing, with Valverde not here, Nibali not here. But honestly, just about everybody is, and that's what's going to make this race throughout these next 7 days absolutely fascinating. 36 kilometres to go, very verdant, as you can see, in this part of the world, which tells you that there's been quite a bit of rain. It does get scorched later on, scorching up the road for you, and his own entertainment, I guess, is Louis Verwijk, working for Tosh van der Sande today, but if they let him off the leash, he will take advantage if he possibly can. Now, he has another climb still to come, and that is going to be with 18 kilometres to go. Well, there's the gap. It's not going to happen, I wouldn't have thought.
No, I think it will be difficult to stay away from that one, and certainly when you're seeing the pace that the peloton are coming at him with. I thought when they pulled in the neutral car there, that neutral service car, that he would have had about 30 seconds already, but that's definitely a lot less.
Well, just looking back at that chasing group, and again off the descent, it's largely Movistar and Sky. Only 36 seconds. There will be a reassembly, I am sure, because I think everyone would rather like this to all come back together and then leave the real strenuous stuff for when they get to the mountains, where the GC boys will have some fun. Today, it really is going to be teed up for the sprinters. Foremost amongst them all, of course, is Nasser Bouhanni. So we'll see how Nasser goes, shall we? Whether he's managed to cheer himself up since the Milan-San Remo. We're going to take a break, however, and we'll be back in a moment. 31 kilometres to go. Verwijk is off the leash just a little bit. Looks like everyone eased up while they wanted to reassemble themselves. There was too many lonely figures, and it would have meant that Movistar would have to drive it all the way to the line, which they were not given to do. They wanted to lead down the descent because they're pretty good at it, know the surface, and Sky were happy to sit on and just be guided down, quite frankly. But there were some other players very much not engaged, and so some of their lone riders who found themselves towards the front were basically told not to do any work while everyone else caught up, and that's more or less what has happened right now. So it looks, Magnus, we're going to take this final category 3 climb, and then we're going to have a bit of a sprightly run-in. Let's talk about it, shall we? You've done this run-in, and it does pitch and toss a little bit on the approach, does it not?
Well, it definitely is a tricky run-in. Not necessarily technical, but more so in terms of there's a possibility of opening up too early for the lead out for a sprint. It's quite a lot harder than what it actually looks, and certainly than what it looks on paper, because on paper it's absolutely pan flat, which is far from the case. But there's a couple of roundabouts with about 1 kilometre or so to go, 1.5 kilometres. But before that, you got a couple of. It's quite a large road that you're coming on, and there's a few ramps there which, you know, they don't look an awful lot to the eye, but they certainly leave quite a big dent in your legs after having to go up them at the pace that you have to stay in position, to hold your position, to make sure that you are where you need to be for the sprint.
So we're just coming into town right now. Calleja is our ultimate destination. They are on a sort of a plateau that will gradually, slowly but surely start to climb to a false flat, if you like, for probably about 6 or 8 kilometres, and then they'll start climbing proper at the very end. It's only categorised 3. It's got a bit of a kick within it. Peaks at 18 to go, and then there is a technical descent for the last 8k. Which are listed as flat, but as Magnus says, they are not. You've got a slight rise up to 5.5 to go. Then it's lumpy in the last, around about the last 3Ks, with a roundabout at 2, and there is the lump that Magnus is actually pointing out to me. It looks like a bad rash.
Yeah, it certainly does. With 3 kilometres to go, there's quite a significant climb. It goes up about 15 metres or so in less than half a kilometre, so that's steep enough to hurt you, and it continues to go up and down like that for all the way into towards the finish line. The roundabouts that I was mentioning earlier, they are placed with 2 kilometres and about 1,300 metres to the line, and then the final little bit up to the line itself, with about 300 metres it kicks up, and it levels out with about 150 metres to the finish line. So it's one of these where you can't go too early, but you can't wait for that little ramp, which is effectively where you normally would open up your sprint. So it's very difficult to judge this one, right?
It does actually gently ease down and then kicks up to the line. So there's you have to pick it up late on, albeit I'm not sure how much of that you're going to see on camera by the time we're looking straight down the finish straight, if you like. But we'll see how they cope with it. There's no doubt, Magnus, that while there's a brief hiatus here in hostilities, that Nasser Bouhanni is the man to beat. He's got Borut Bozic and, of course, the erstwhile bearded Jeffrey Soup.
Yeah, I mean, I think Cofidis has come here with probably the fastest sprinter in this particular bunch, and clearly one of the fastest sprinters in the world. So they're going to do everything they can, and I think that's why they...
Hello.
Yeah, hello. One of the Yam Cycling riders going off the front, and joined quickly by one of the quick-step riders.
There we are. Julian Alaphilippe, by the way, is back here after suffering from mononucleosis or glandular fever last year after some great results, and started off as one of the favourites for today, but drifted when nobody fancied taking the risk. And there are plenty of riders who, we said they were testing their form, but frankly they're just seeing where they are post-injury. The aforementioned Warren Barguil, when his team giant Alpecin were taken out by a tourist on the wrong side of the road while training in Spain. I'm not sure what nationality the tourist was. It was no consequence, but we're on the wrong side of the road, so one thinks it may well have been British.
From what I've read somewhere, that it was a British driver, but
there we are. So
I'm not 100% sure. So
yeah, not a happy thing.
30 seconds.
Well, he's managed to pull out another 10, so he did go long. We said the penultimate climb could be a launch pad, and he decided to light the touch paper. Will he make it?
I think it's a tall order from here already. It all depends on what time gap he has when he comes down off the next climb. With about 5 kilometers to go, so then you can start worrying about it. But he's going to need a significant amount of time to hold off on that final big road run towards the finish.
Well, it's been done before, and indeed from this kind of distance, but with the quality of field we've got, and in fact 10, 6 and 4 seconds bonus at the line. If they believe that Verwijk is going to die later on in this race, they might just let him have some fun. But honestly, I think the sprint guys, this matters too much. And Bouhanni, he needs cheering up post Milan-San Remo, does he not?
Yeah, I think he does quite a bit. It was a very unfortunate incident for Bouhanni, because I think he would have had that if he'd managed to, well, if his chain had stayed on the big chain ring. But unfortunately, it seems like he's having quite a few little incidents like this, and he throws the toys out the pram a little bit too quickly. He
does. He leans on his team, and he does the jabby pointy in the finger in the chest very well indeed. He is a kickboxer, we remind you. That was his chosen sport before he took on cycling, and I think he carries a bit of the mood sometimes with him, and he is hard to cheer up. And they're actually saying that if he doesn't, if it's not going to be him, then Bozic and Jeff Soup might actually have a chance today. Magnus, we've got some pursuers here.
Yeah, it looks like we've got 4 riders just going out of the peloton and setting off in pursuit of Verwijk. We've got...
Well, foremost amongst them from IAM is Matty Frank, who is extraordinarily handy. Likewise, we've got Brent Buchwalter, the American, and number 43 here from Ethics Quickstep is Maxime Bouet. Now, this is a quality set of chasers, to be honest, and it requires a response from the pack.
Yeah, I think it does, but at the same time, you got the whole of Team Sky, you got the whole of Movistar. I think they're in control of the chase, but nevertheless, with someone like Matthias Frank out there, you don't want to let him get too much distance, because he's a very capable climber, and with that, you know, giving him 15, 20, 30 seconds head start when you start heading up into the big mountains, he would be capable of potentially holding on to the overall.
So a danger man has gone up the road. First day of the Tour of Catalunya, as I'm sure you know, and when you know that this is a field that's racked full of talent, you've got to take your chances wherever you can, and that's what's happening right now. Axel Daumont is the other rider who's also made it into this breakaway. So a good selection of teams and some very good riders have been involved today. Cameron Meyer, we talked about earlier on, he, Louis Dron and Louis Mas are back in the pack, but Verwijk has gone, and he's being chased at the moment by Brent Buchwalter of BMC Racing, the American. Maxime Bouet of France for Ethics Quick Step in the blue. Axel Dumont from AG Tour Le Mondial in the brown with the white, brown and white. And 22 kilometres to go. There is a really handy pursuit group chasing down Louis Verwijk. Melis Frank tried to bridge over. Axel Dumont of AG Tour Le Mondial, Maxime Bouet, Brent Buchwalter, as you know. They've been joined by Jörg Friedler from Giant Alpecin, and Maxime Bouet's teammate Carlos Verona of Ethics Quickstep. They've now got a brace of riders who've managed to bridge over. Now it's a question of just how much leash the pack are going to give them, and indeed will they hang themselves with it. 22 to go. This is that nasty climb that we're telling you about late on. It's only a categorized 3, but coming so deep into the day with, well, 22 to go, he's got 4 kilometers before he reached the crest of it. Big pinch point coming up right now, as you can see, with the avenue tree-lined, offering up some shade, plane trees as we go. But a quality group in hot pursuit as we go, as we just leave town and head back out again.
Yeah, just had a 3 kilometers to go to the top of the climb. It's more of a power climb, this one. You have to ride it on the big ring, and you have to have the legs left to be able to press on. And as you can see just in the background of your picture there, the group is closing in on Verwijk up in this solo break at the moment. But it becomes, I think, very difficult on these sort of slightly less steep climbs to actually keep the pressure on. Certainly as a lone rider, it's much easier in a bigger group.
Sorry, Magnus. He's only a youngster, 22 years of age, and he has had some decent results. Took a stage on the Tour de l'Avenir a couple of years ago when he was still very, I think he was just 20 at the time. So yeah, he's sprightly and more than a workhorse. You don't get into the Lotto team if you're not. But looking behind, Matthias Frank, the Swiss, who always is very good at this time of year, doesn't mind grizzly conditions either. He was 8th on the Tour de France last year, and one of those sort of ignored riders. Had he been possibly from another nation other than Switzerland, we may well have been talking more about him. You get some very, very good riders coming out of Switzerland at the moment. Sebastian Reichenbach, just noting as well, just had a superb run last week. So yeah, I Am Cycling very much in here. You can see the red sash in mostly white jersey. Giant Alpecin are here with Jörg Friedler, the Austrian, as well. And they're calling the vehicles out of the gap, which suggests that their time is being marked at the moment by the pack. And just caught sight of them, Magnus. It looks like game over.
Yeah, it's going to take an awful lot to pull away from the bunch there. You can spot them ever so often down the back of your picture, but it's nevertheless it's good to see these riders making an attempt at this late stage and then putting a bit of pressure on the more sort of the bigger favorite teams, should we call them. I think it's going to be an interesting final.
So, should we put Bohani to one side and then say who else do you think will go well
we're betting
today?
For seconds today.
Well, it kind of feels that way, doesn't it? It may well be that Bohani huffs out of this one and or just doesn't have the space that he likes to play with. Despite being a kickboxer, he doesn't like close quarters, it seems, combat, but he does cope with dodgy conditions. Honestly, if it rained at the end, it'd be an absolute 100% nailed on. We'll accept that Bohani's the favourite. Who else are you going to look for today?
I will certainly look for a combination of Daryl Impey and Simon Gerrans. One of those two. I can't really decide which one, but I think this is more of a Simon Gerrans type of sprint.
They're rolling with it here. Our breakaway are determined to just stay away for the time being, at least as long as they possibly can. That's Axel Dumont, who's just chasing onto the back wheel here of Matthias Frank. No surprise to see that Frank wants to have a go at this climb, but he may well just guide everybody around it. It's not serious enough either for him to get a big gap, but the technical descent, if you've got a good descender in here, then why not? And BMC, not afraid of taking on moments such as this.
No, definitely not. But you can see the bunch is getting closer and closer, and it's going to be difficult for them to stay away. And I think certainly with the descent that we got coming up as well, a lot of the teams are going to start putting a bit of pressure on there to try and keep their people out of trouble. I think my bet for today is still going to be Ben Swift, though.
There we are. I'd love to see Ben Swift, runner-up in San Remo. You never know. Might get elevated if the result is indeed questioned later on. We will see. Going spectacularly quickly for Team Sky, and very much on his own, I guess. He's not going to have a lead-out train to speak of today, although Vasil Kirienka will do a good slingshot job for him, I'm sure. Not purely assembled lead-out train, and for the first time we're seeing Astana showing an interest right now as we come to this last crest of the day.
Well, I think that Sky will still assemble a good train for Ben Swift if they want to. They got like you mentioned, but they also got Nicholas Roach, who's certainly not slow, and with this kind of grippy finish as well that we have. But we shouldn't forget that they got Geraint Thomas in there, who is certainly one of the strongest lead-up men, really, when he wants to be, and certainly when he decides to put his efforts that way. And I don't think that Geraint is here to ride general classification. He's here to back up his team, back up Chris Froome, and continue to build on his form. So I think you could potentially see Geraint actually give it a go again. And I guess it's going to come down to as well how much did that crash that he did in Milan-San Remo hurt him, and you know, is it something that he's still struggling with? And there he comes on the left-hand side of your picture.
Indeed. Checking it out, 19 from home. It could be a long run in for a decent time trial, as you're thinking Rowan Dennis maybe, if he's feeling cheeky enough. Sky mobbing it for now. Well, you've got some extraordinary riders within Team Sky, and Vasil Kirienka is, to my mind, just one of the world's absolute great team players. World time trial champion, of course, in his own right, the Belarusian, but great at dictating pace, and this will put the hurt on some of the quick men and really open up, I guess, the door for Ben Swift. So it could well be that Ben Swift, it's his kind of day. Let's see what BMC do, and whether Rowan Dennis can manage to roll off the nose and take something. Here we are. There is the KOM dealt with right now. So we've dealt with the Colse Creal. Now this is a technical descent. Where Movistar, you're asking, but here come Orica Greenedge. Now Simon Gerrans and Daryl Impey. I think I might well go for Gero today, so I'll roll with Gero, you go with Ben Swift, but we think Buwani's going to win it nonetheless. Talk about hedging our bets. 18 to go, sun comes out, almost poetically, I think. The road is dry and we've got this run down to the coast. It's high speed, action packed, and it certainly will be today's finish.
Yeah, it's a lovely descent, this, actually. It's not too many sort of super tight corners. It's one or two of them, but the majority of it is actually relatively fast and flowing. And Team Sky clearly taking the control here, wanting to protect Chris Froome a bit, and with that also it means that Ben Swift will be in a position where he can just relax.
If it gets messy, anyone could be involved. Till Bonneville Gin says Gasparotto for him. Sam Weaver thinks Gianni Meersman for today. They're all good calls. Early stage prediction, Thomas again, says Richard. Not sure, Richard. No. 18 kilometres to go.
Van der Sande is one of the guys
never know. Tosh could do it. Yeah, absolutely. We've lost two riders, by the way, today who have withdrawn. Chris Bocamons of Lotto Soudal, keeping his powder dry, I think, for when it gets grisly in the classics. We'll see. Wilco Kelderman, perhaps likewise from Team Lotto Jumbo, abandoned at 68 k's to go. I hope they're okay. There's no report of anything untoward. I think they just thought better of coming here, quite frankly, or maybe just fancied a paella. I'm not sure. 17 kilometres to go then as they come down and into town. It's this sort of sinuous run-in that will give them a sense of speed, some which of that will be shed, Magnus, as we get to what is actually turning out to be quite a technical little finish, this one.
Yeah, I think it will be technical. Well, not technical in terms of corners and so on to negotiate, but just more technical in terms of when do you let the team open up fully for the lead out, and positioning, I think, is going to be key as well, not to end up on the front too early and having to open up your sprint. You need to come from behind and with a slight element of surprise as well. So I think, you know, just having one or two guys, a bit like the Orica Greenedge combination, is not a bad idea here to use one of the guys to Yeah, it was a bit tight there with the motorbike. He went up the inside, but
that was yes.
You should have seen your face there, Carlton.
I'm trying not to be too hard on the camera people now after all the criticism. But to be honest, he was going on to the inside of a corner, which was clearly the line the riders wanted to take. They drift over to the left-hand side because they're going to turn right. Anyway, 16 kilometres to go.
I guess we should.
I'm more nervous than they are.
I know you. I guess we should say it's not the cameraman's fault either, because he's just providing the picture of what the motorbike driver is doing.
Exactly. They do follow direction on occasion, but anyway, we'll ease off that for a bit. Here is Team Sky then doing a very good pacing job. Well, the technicality of the descent is far from, for the time being, good wide open highway. It's dry as well, and that instills a sense of confidence, which mirrors itself in speed.
Yeah, it certainly does. And then just a little kick up here and then back down again towards the well, it's not quite a motorway, but it's certainly a very, very wide road for the final.
Enough to play with, isn't it?
It's enough. Yeah, it's enough of a springboard provided to someone like Gilbert to have a big go within the final 3-4 kilometers to try and sort of steal the stage away.
Won't be a surprise. So let's see how this one meets its end, shall we? And let's hope it's a clean one. Saint-Paul de Mar is where we are heading to. It's the Hermitage, by the way, of St. Paul. Moving on. 15 kilometers to go. I don't know how they know. Maybe his name is above the door. Not sure. 68.25 kilometers per hour from Moto 1. These guys aren't hanging about.
No, they never do. On a descent like this, you know, you need to keep it strung out. You need to be pushing on, and I mean, to me, this is the best part about cycling, really, is just to drop down the descents like this.
Just at the back here, it's Jack Haig. He's presumably done his job today, or is going to struggle to get back in. Clearly not happy descending. Maybe the grizzly conditions as well, although the Aussies always go extremely well at this time of year. They're sort of coming out of what has been a pleasant winter in the northern hemisphere. Of course, summertime for them. They are really pacing into this descent right now, and the trees still not in full leaf, giving us a clear view as we come down to the coastline here. Doesn't look like there's been that much agricultural movement either, so the road is suitably grey as opposed to brown, which it can get, which is not nice. Sometimes dusty, and that can cause problems in the corners when it's too dry. Yes, it can be. 14 kilometres to go then. This is our approach. So we have a couple of roundabouts to deal with late on. The road does bob up and down, and indeed reasonably dramatically. You'll see some kicks and then some little downhill sections all coming thick and fast on what is a bit of a roller coaster approach before we get to our last sort of 500-600 meters, where it's essentially go for the line and just ride the inclines or descents along the way.
Yeah, it is. Like I said, it's not a technical finish. It's pretty much a straight line for the final 2 kilometers, bar one little roundabout with about 1,200 meters to go. But the difficulty is the slight undulation in the terrain going in towards the finish line, and timing that right with the lead out and so on. But this is clearly, the pace is on, and Vasil Kirienko, also known as the motorbike in the peloton, just purely by the speed that he's able to ride at for a longer period of time, he's clearly opened up the throttle here.
Finally, Jack Haig gets back in, having to pedal to get back on, as those in front of him were freewheeling as part of a train. He's there. 13 kilometers to go then, and Sky showing their intent. This is apart from anything else, is about keeping Chris Froome safe. Safest place to be up front, and Chris Froome's team are there, and they've really strung it out on this descent. Flatter section right now, as the bilious clouds still make a nuisance of themselves, albeit breaking down as we head towards the coastline. Chris Froome's had a big time of independent training, essentially, or training away from competition, more like. That never really hampers him. He always comes straight back into competition, it seems, absolutely top draw. So he starts as out-and-out favourite for this race. He was sick last year, and in fact finished way down in the 70s, I think it was. So a year to forget last time by, but he's decided to step up to the mark, and he doesn't do that unless he believes himself to be a contender. And Alberto Contador has got to look over his shoulder, perhaps, or maybe it's Chris Froome that's looking over his shoulder to see Contador. Quintana, Richie Porte as well, now divorced, of course, from Chris Froome, not on with that duty now at BMC with much more of a free hand, but TJ Van Garderen within that team as well, still wanting to do something spectacular. Joaquin Rodriguez wants to keep his nose clean, having won this back in 2014, would like to do so again, but Zakharin, his Russian teammate, could well take a step forward. Massive names to deal with, plenty that we haven't even mentioned. You know, even a cheeky one from someone like Dan Martin today would be there. Would not be a massive surprise, but let's see how everyone handles it. Can't see too much of Cofidis at the moment. They have to assemble themselves and think about it reasonably quickly, because on this long descent to 8Ks out, there's a lot of ground to make up potentially. Look at the distance between front and back, even of the peloton.
Yeah, and as you turn up onto the main road on the way in towards Calais again, you only have about a kilometre or so to get yourself near to the front before you start climbing on what is well, certainly with my legs, it was quite a hard climb, I remembered. And yeah, so I think Cofidis need to assemble themselves and get together somewhere relatively close to the front, and I can see some red jerseys. Whether they're Katusha or whether they're Cofidis, that's a different question.
Well, I'm just looking into to try and pick out Jeffrey Soup's amazing beard. How does he keep his beard out of the soup? Well, he doesn't. It's that big. 10 kilometers to go of this 96th Volta Catalunya. The opening stage here of the 7 will be in your good company, I hope, for the remainder, indeed, of this week-long event. And fantastic approach, real high speed at the moment, and they're driving into it. What about Carl Reinen? Somebody has said. Indeed, Sam Weaver says Carl Reinen. Yeah, the American is spectacular. He's been on great form as well. He had a good Strade Bianche, so he's absolutely where he needs to be. Let's see, it might be Kyle, it might be someone like Lorenzo Manzin from Francis de Jure. If Kevin Retzer does his usual lead-out job. So many different options today, and still we don't see Buani just for the time being, but we suspect it is indeed he that's part of that Cofidis group that's just moving to the fore. BMC looking lively. Will Philippe Gilbert have a go? Well, if he can, he will. And Trek also just making themselves felt. That is Carl Reinen, incidentally. He's trying to move into position. He's going to have to ride on somebody else's lead-out train, and why not Sky's today?
Well, Sky's definitely one of them, but I think I would probably keep an eye, a closer eye on what Cofidis are doing. Get up near the front at this moment and stay near Team Sky and the big GC teams that are clearly going to make sure that they're keeping their men out of trouble. And the only way of doing that really is by being very much near the front and sort of set up as a team. So it shouldn't be a puncture, shouldn't be a crash or anything like that. They can actually get their GC man back into contention again. So you know, top 20 position right now would be ideal, and then just wait for the one train that I think really is going to make the difference coming in for the final kilometre and a half, and that is Cofidis.
There'll be a slight rise at 5.5 kilometres to go, so they come into the rather nicely trimmed boulevards, as you can see. BMC also just starting to mob on that side of the road, right-hand side of your screen. You can see the men in the red and black. I am cycling as well with Jonas van Genechten. He's in the house as we speak, but Sky at the moment are bossing things, and finally Cofidis really do get their armory together. The men in red, left-hand side of your screen, so right-hand side of the road, and you can see the bearded figure of Jeffrey Soupé looming large, and in fact he's got 3 of his teammates around him. Soup can go quickly, so can Borut Bozic, and but Buani, we know, is the best sprinter here, and they're They're looking ominous, quite frankly. AG2 Le Mondial also just looking to find a little bit of space. Not quite sure who their chosen man is going to be today. Maybe it's just about keeping it safe for Pozzovivo and Bardet. 8Ks to go then as they come into the sunshine, and finally we get some sharp shadows to accent the fact that the sun is at long last with us, and apparently we're going to have some good weather throughout this day, and in fact suggestions of a heat haze. I think it may well be helicopter exhaust, not quite sure. First of a couple of roundabouts they've got to deal with. Well, they choose to take either side of this roundabout at 7 kilometres to go. Saint-Paul-de-Mar with the aforementioned Hermitage. We're not worried about that today. Somebody's going to be praying, though, you can be sure about that, on the way in. Who is going to make this one count? There's been a little bit of a knockback in the pace, and that's because of this drag we've got. That rise up to 5.5 to go.
Yeah, they're just coming under the main road here now, and this is where it starts getting interesting. The next couple of kilometers, setting up for that drag, as you're talking about. It's actually more than a drag. It's getting closer to 10% for a short period of time, and you can see the position already now. The riders are starting to jostle about and try and get themselves in the right place for this particular point.
It looks like Lorenzo Manzini is in fact leading out Kevin Retzer today. I don't know whether they've got swap duties or whether Retzer will finally be given his head. He certainly deserves it. Going early, Wanty Group Gobert decide to go sail into the void. Will they manage to make it stick? I'm wondering if this is Gatien Byler or B, I beg your pardon. I always give him the Flemish sounding name instead of the French. 6Ks out. It's a brave one, if that indeed is he, as they make the turn right now.
Yeah, I think this is going to be very difficult to hold on to, you know, going out like this with such a long way to go to the finish, and certainly with the terrain that we have coming up here now. But still sparks a couple of reactions from the peloton, and puts the pressure on the rest of the team.
It does. If somebody believes they can go long, they better come and join the fun if they're going to have a chance. Big curve right now. They'll take this sort of motorway loop intersection designed for you to pay a toll. No charge for these guys, but a heavy price, I'll be bound, as well along the way. It's Thoreau, in fact, who's gone long here for a Wanty Group Gobert with 6Ks to go. I guess he's wishing he'd now got rid of his rain cape, but the Pro Continental teams will keep as much kit as they possibly can. Here come the pack bearing down upon him, and he has a look back, almost like a trackies glance, as you can see, and they're starting to peel off the nose of the pack and just go for this, sailing into the void. Now, who has got what it takes from this sort of distance? There are some powerhouses who can make it count, picking them off one by one.
Nicolas Roche is coming up here as well from Team Sky, putting a dig in on this climb. We're just starting at the lower ramps of this, and
look at him go. He's not looking back either, Nico Roche. He knows what was in front of him, and he knows the cadence he was carrying into it. Very good and brave effort by Nico Roche right now, and alarm bells are going off.
Yeah, they certainly are. They have to be, because Nico Roche, once he gets to the top here, it's got a couple of more other kicks coming in, but he's certainly one of the riders who would be capable of holding on to an attack like this, and it was a very strong move indeed that he made.
Couldn't quite see who it was from Giant Alpecin who's trying to get back to him. We're just staying with Nico for the time being, and he's burying himself into the task at hand. What a great early season win this would be for Nicolas Roche, who, of course, Grand Tour stage winner now, just like Dad, and absolutely heady. Of course, he's married to a Catalan, I believe, and lives not that far away, so it's very much his home race, this one.
Yeah, I mean, whatever his motivation is right now, you can see the next little ramp coming up the road there now, and it's just a question of just committing 100%, because once he's done that big attack, then you can't really wait for anyone.
Great time to go for it as well, as others were starting to think about assembling their lead-out trains. Sky allowed Nicolas Roche just to fracture and head away, and as we look downstairs, as you can see on the shoreline, they've got sight of him, but what on earth can they do about it, Magnus? 4 to go.
Well, the only thing that they can do is organise themselves and put a couple of teams together to work together and try and bring Nicolas back, because with these little ramps coming up, and certainly by the looks of the attack that Nicolas made, he's gone very well indeed. But it's looking like a few Tinkoff riders are now getting to the front as well, together with the Movistars.
Tinkoff working for Matteo Tozzato, although of course to keep Alberto Contador keep his nose clean as we head for the mountains. Now Nicolas Roche can climb, as you can see, and he's got a decent pace about him. Not a bad time trialist either on the run in. 3 kilometers to go. He's still got the belief. Mouth agape, as you can see. I'd love the camera just to switch round and show us how close the pack are to him. I imagine that they are pushing into the gap as we speak, as the roads will beckon and get a little bit more technical. He's holding the gap, at least for now. It'll be the 2K marker next time by, if that ticket is correct. He just comes up and over the ramp. The last lumps around about the 3 kilometer mark, with 2 Ks to go. He's going to hit a roundabout, and it's a pretty technical one. If he can sail round that as the road rises and falls, he might just have a chance. But Cofidis are up towards the nose, and it's only 12 seconds with 3 to go.
And here comes the bunch as well. They've really got themselves organised at the top of this this final climb, and they're now just kind of playing cat and mouse with Nicolas Roche. Although Roche is certainly going strong out there.
I love the fact that Nicolas Roche has not spared himself a glance back just yet. He's just keeping his head down and doing what he can do. He's drinking in the horizon visually, and that's exactly the best way to handle a situation such as this. This is the roundabout that we were talking about. This is the big turner. Here it is. So the next roundabout he'll have to deal with will be slightly more technical, slightly less technical than that, but that didn't look too bad. He's into Calleja, 2 Ks to go. Camera pans round, and there is the mob. Now he's got a chance, but the speed of the approach is absolutely huge. The foreshortening of the camera doesn't really tell you, but that towards the front is Orica Greenedge. Impey and Gerrans are starting to get into their position, and so is Cofidis right now. Here we go. It is going to be a grandstand finale, I believe.
Yeah, definitely. Cofidis are making a move up towards the front and trying to organise themselves on the right-hand side of the road there, not to be mistaken by Katusha, who's got a very similar outfit this year, but Ethics Quick Stepper up there as well, challenging for this. Big
look over the shoulders. This is that roundabout that we said that he had to deal with, going straight on. It's dealt with, but so unfortunately for Roche is he. Tinkoff at the front, working to stay safe, but maybe for Tozzato, we'll see. But just looking a little bit further in, you could see there's a big assembly here. Setovic is here for Team Katusha. Some big men, certainly. Gianni Meersman is also in the house. Katusha in the red, Meersman in the blue. Locked in on the other side is Ben Swift. He's taken to the barriers that time by. He's still got intact, and suddenly showing their nose. Gerrans and Impey in the white and green of Orica Greenedge also there. But guess who's at the front? Cofidis are starting to make moves. There's Jeffrey Soup about to take it up. Buani's waiting for his chance as well. And this is that rise we were talking about. Still keeping it calm. Not going for it just yet. Jeffrey Soup with his being about dead centre of your screen just lights it up now, and there's Buhani. It's him versus Gerrans. This is going to be, as Gerrans and Impey are on the other side of the road, and Buhani has decided to abandon Soup and just tag on to their coattails. Swift is there as well for Sky, and he's got a good view of this. Swift has a big look. He tags and he goes, and so does Buhani, who hits the middle of the road right now. Still not to be outdone. Gianni Meersman in the frame, but it's Buhani ahead of Swift. How else must that story have been written? He did the job.
Yeah, he did the job. I think Soup did a very good lead out and as well, but Buhani clearly thought that he's too far to go to the finish line. And like I said earlier in commentary, with this particular sprint, you have to wait to the final 100 meters to go, and Buhani knew exactly where he needed to be placed to do that sprint properly. And yeah, what a powerhouse he is when he gets going. Really super fast at the moment, and I think that had nothing happened for him in that sprint on Saturday, Milan-San Remo, he would have been the winner of that one. But good to see Swifty up there as well, and it looks like it is Daryl Impey coming up for well, close call on second place there between Gasparotto and Impey.
Did B get third there for
I think that might be that's Gasparotto.
I beg your pardon, it is. And Good effort by Wanty Group Gobert in this kind of company, but no doubt about the best sprinter here. And he actually he doesn't look like he's taking even a deep breath, Bouhanni. His by rights, I think.
Yeah, clearly, well, we said already early on in today's stage that Bouhanni was going to be the man to beat, and he clearly showed that he's got the fast legs on, and I think his team looked after him very well in the final few kilometers as well. So you know, they let all the other teams do the majority of the chasing, left Zoop to do the final bit for Bouhanni, keeping him out of trouble, and it's just a
good job. So we have our leader with a 10-second bonus. Nasser Bouhanni leads this race, maximum 6 from the individual intermediate sprints along the way. Not going to knock him off his perch for the time being. So our leader will be Bouhanni tomorrow as we head to Olot, 178 kilometers, and an uphill finish, of which there seem to be many in this race, the Tour of Catalunya. Just waiting for our official result to be placed upon that lovely vista. He's had a lot of disappointment, Bouhanni, and that was the perfect way to respond, but no great celebration from him here, no roar of delight. I think he possibly thinks that if he hadn't done it, it would have been serious implications. I think he's probably right.